Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, winds howling, rain lashing, chaos everywhere, yet remaining completely still, unshaken, untouched. This is the power of a trained mind. For thousands of years, Buddhist monks and warriors have mastered the art of mental strength, not by fighting the world, but by mastering their own thoughts. Today, you will learn 3 ancient Buddhist techniques to forge an unbreakable mind, one that remains calm in chaos, focused in distraction, and fearless in the face of adversity. These are not mere philosophies, but battle-tested tools used by the greatest warriors of the mind. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Warrior's Mind. Why most people fail. Imagine 2 warriors standing on the same battlefield. One sees the mud, the blood, the chaos, and thinks, "This is too much. Why does it have to be this hard?" The other warrior looks at the same scene, grips their sword tighter, and smiles. "Good. Now I get to test my training." This is the fundamental difference between weakness and strength. Most people never develop mental strength because they're fighting the wrong battle. They believe if they can just control everything around them, their job, their relationships, even other people's opinions, then they'll finally be at peace. But life doesn't work that way. The battlefield will always be rough. Storms will always come. People will always disappoint you. If your strength depends on everything going your way, you will always be fragile. Buddhism reveals a powerful truth. Suffering doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from your resistance to what happens. When you demand that life be easy, that people be kind, that circumstances be fair, you're setting yourself up for constant disappointment. The untrained mind reacts to every difficulty with, "This shouldn't be happening." The warrior's mind asks, "What can this teach me?" Here's the crucial realization. The noise outside isn't hurting you. The traffic isn't hurting you. The rude comment isn't hurting you. The only thing that can truly hurt you is your own mind's reaction to these things. The voice that says, "This is unbearable," or "I can't handle this." This is what the Buddha meant by attachment. Our clinging to how we think things should be rather than accepting how they are. Consider how most people handle challenges. When faced with a setback, they obsess over it, replaying the moment endlessly like prisoners trapped in their own minds. They blame others, convinced that if only that person had acted differently, they wouldn't be upset. They rage against reality, refusing to accept what has already happened. In each case, they weren't defeated by the event itself, but by their own refusal to accept it. This is the birthplace of mental weakness, the delusion that peace comes from controlling the uncontrollable. True warriors know better. They understand that strength isn't about changing life's difficulties, but about not being changed by them. Your first step in developing a warrior's mind is simple but profound. Start noticing when you're blaming external circumstances for your pain. The next time you feel angry or hurt, pause and ask, "Is this pain coming from what actually happened, or from my thoughts about it?" This moment of awareness is where true strength begins. Most people will go their entire lives without this realization, constantly fighting against reality, exhausting themselves in battles they can't win. But you're different. You're beginning to understand the warrior's truth. The battlefield doesn't need to change. You do. And that is where unshakable mental strength is forged. 2. Technique Hasson, the art of detached observation. The human mind is perhaps the most powerful weapon we possess, yet most people have never learned how to wield it properly. Consider this. Right now, as you read these words, your mind is generating thoughts, judgments, and reactions without your conscious permission. A stream of mental chatter flows endlessly in the background of your awareness, shaping your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately, your entire experience of life. This is the fundamental predicament of human existence that Buddhist masters have studied for millennia. The average person believes they are their thoughts, completely identified with every mental event that arises. When anxiety appears, they think, "I am anxious." When anger surfaces, "I am angry." This complete fusion with our mental content is what keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering. The revolutionary insight of Buddhism is that we are not our thoughts, we are the awareness that observes thoughts. This simple but profound distinction forms the foundation of all mental mastery. Imagine standing by a river, watching leaves float by on the current. Most people are like someone who sees a leaf and jumps into the river to chase it, becoming completely consumed by that single leaf. The trained mind remains on the shore, calmly observing all leaves as they come and go. This is the essence of detached observation, the first and most crucial technique for developing true mental strength. When you begin to practice this skill, you'll discover something remarkable. Thoughts are actually quite fleeting when you don't feed them with your attention. A thought arises, it tries to hook your awareness, and if you don't bite, it dissipates like a cloud passing through an open sky. The problem isn't the thoughts themselves, it's our tendency to latch onto them, to elaborate them into full-blown stories, to treat them as absolute truth rather than temporary mental phenomena. A monk once explained it this way: "Pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is optional. Suffering comes not from the pain itself, but from our resistance to it and our mental commentary about it." The practical application of this wisdom is both simple and profound. Next time you find yourself caught in a wave of negative emotion, perhaps anxiety about an upcoming event or frustration with someone's behavior, try this three-step process. First, pause physically. Stop whatever you're doing for just 10 seconds. Second, name the emotion silently to yourself. "This is anxiety," or "This is irritation." Third, shift your attention to your breath for 3 complete cycles. This creates just enough space between you and the emotion to break the spell of complete identification. What you're actually doing in these moments is rewiring your brain's default responses. Neuroscience confirms what Buddhist practitioners have known for centuries. Regular practice of detached observation physically changes the brain's structure, weakening the neural pathways of automatic emotional reaction and strengthening those of conscious response. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's practical brain training. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to meet thoughts and emotions with calm awareness rather than unconscious reaction. The implications of mastering this single technique are enormous. Consider how much unnecessary suffering we create by believing every thought that crosses our minds. "I'm not good enough. This situation is unbearable. I can't handle this." We treat these mental events as truths rather than recognizing them for what they truly are, passing clouds in the vast sky of awareness. A warrior who has trained in detached observation doesn't waste energy fighting internal storms. They conserve their power for where it's truly needed, maintaining clarity and composure even in the midst of chaos. This practice doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb or disconnected. Quite the opposite. It allows for deeper, more authentic experience by removing the filters of constant mental judgment. When you're not lost in thought about an experience, you can actually be present for the experience itself. This is why Buddhist teachers often say that true freedom isn't found in changing what happens to us, but in changing our relationship to what happens. The same event that might devastate one person barely ruffles another, not because their circumstances are different, but because their minds relate to those circumstances differently. The journey to mental strength begins with this fundamental shift, from being lost in thought to being aware of thought, from believing every mental event to recognizing thoughts as transient appearances in consciousness. This is the first and most essential tool in the warrior's mental toolkit, the ability to observe all phenomena, internal and external, with calm detachment. Master this, and you've taken the first real step toward true mental freedom. Every moment becomes an opportunity to practice. Each thought, each emotion, each situation, another chance to remember. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness that witnesses them. This realization changes everything. 3. Technique #2. The Sword of Impermanence. The greatest weapon in a warrior's mental arsenal isn't brute force or relentless positivity, it's the razor-sharp understanding that everything changes. This is the Sword of Impermanence, a Buddhist insight so powerful it can cut through the toughest chains of suffering. Most people live as if the present moment is permanent. Their problems feel eternal, their pain seems endless, and their happiness appears fleeting. This fundamental misperception is the root of nearly all mental suffering. The warrior knows better. They recognize that just as no storm lasts forever, no emotional state, whether bliss or anguish, remains unchanged. This isn't wishful thinking, it's the observable truth of existence. Consider the last time you experienced something truly difficult. In that moment, it likely felt like it would never end. The anxiety about your future, the regret about your past, the physical pain or emotional distress. All of it seemed absolute and permanent. But here's what's remarkable. That experience passed, the intensity faded, the circumstances changed. Even if traces remain, the raw immediacy of that suffering transformed with time. This is the nature of reality that Buddhism calls anicca, the Pali word for impermanence that monks contemplate daily. Everything arises, everything passes away. The untrained mind resists this truth, clinging desperately to pleasant experiences and pushing away unpleasant ones. The warrior's mind yields to it, flowing with the natural rhythm of change. The practical power of this understanding is immense. When faced with any difficult situation, from minor irritation to profound grief, remembering impermanence immediately loosens suffering's grip. The thought, "This too shall pass," isn't just a comforting platitude. It's an accurate description of reality that provides instant perspective. The throbbing toothache that feels all-consuming at 3 a.m. will be addressed by the dentist in the morning. The heartbreak that makes you feel you'll never love again gradually softens with each sunset. Even the most entrenched problems in our lives, chronic illness, financial struggles, relationship conflicts, exist in constant flux, whether we perceive it or not. The warrior knows that resistance to this flow is what causes suffering, not the changing circumstances themselves. This technique becomes particularly powerful when applied to our thoughts and emotions. Most people treat every mental state as if it's permanent. When anxiety arises, they think, "I'm an anxious person," as if this defines their entire being. When sadness comes, "I'll always feel this way." The warrior recognizes these states as temporary weather patterns in the mind's atmosphere. A simple but profound shift occurs when we stop saying, "I am depressed," and instead note, "Depression is present." The first statement suggests permanence and identity. The second acknowledges a passing experience. This subtle linguistic change reflects a monumental psychological shift, from being trapped in an emotion to witnessing it with perspective. The sword of impermanence cuts both ways. It not only helps us through difficult times, but also prevents us from clinging too tightly to pleasant ones. The same law applies to joy as to sorrow. It changes. The vacation ends. The promotion high fades. Even the most profound spiritual experiences transform over time. Most people suffer twice, first from losing what they love, and second from expecting it to last forever. The warrior enjoys life's pleasures fully while remembering their transient nature, thus avoiding the suffering of unrealistic expectation. This balanced approach creates a steadier happiness, one not dependent on maintaining particular circumstances, but rooted in understanding life's natural rhythm. Practical application of this wisdom transforms how we relate to all experiences. When facing discomfort, physical pain, challenging emotions, difficult circumstances, the warrior mentally notes, "This is unpleasant and it will change." When enjoying pleasure, success, love, tranquility, they equally remember, "This is pleasant and it will change." This practice isn't pessimistic, it's profoundly realistic. It prevents us from being caught off guard by life's inevitable fluctuations. A monk might meditate on a decaying corpse not to be morbid, but to viscerally understand that even this physical form will change. While such intense contemplation isn't necessary for most, regularly reflecting on life's impermanent nature builds mental resilience. Modern neuroscience confirms the wisdom of this ancient practice. Our brains naturally create neural pathways that make familiar thoughts and feelings seem permanent. The more we dwell on anxiety, the more real and permanent it feels. The sword of impermanence severs this illusion. Research shows that mindfulness practices based on observing impermanence actually reduce activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, while strengthening the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought. In other words, recognizing impermanence isn't just philosophy, it physically changes your brain to handle challenges with greater equanimity. The ultimate test of this technique comes when facing life's most difficult changes: loss, aging, mortality. Here, the warrior's understanding moves beyond theory into transformative wisdom. Where others might collapse in despair at the death of a loved one, the warrior grieves fully while remembering that death is part of life's natural cycle. When facing their own aging process, they adapt with grace rather than raging against time's passage. This isn't resignation. It's the deepest form of realism that paradoxically brings profound peace. The Japanese have a beautiful term, mono no aware, which captures the poignant awareness of impermanence, the bittersweet appreciation of life's fleeting beauty. To wield the sword of impermanence effectively requires regular practice. Start small. Notice how your morning mood differs from your evening state. Observe how a minor pain comes and goes throughout the day. Watch how quickly thoughts arise and vanish when you don't cling to them. Gradually expand this awareness to larger life patterns, how relationships evolve, how career paths unfold, how your own beliefs and priorities change over years. Each observation hones your blade sharper. When truly mastered, this understanding allows you to meet all of life's experiences, from trivial annoyances to profound tragedies, with the steady knowledge, this will change. No greater mental armor exists against life's slings and arrows. The warrior doesn't use this truth to become indifferent or detached from life. Quite the opposite. Knowing the precious fragility of each moment inspires deeper engagement. The cherry blossom is most beautiful precisely because it blooms briefly. The sword of impermanence ultimately cuts away our illusions about permanence, leaving us free to fully experience each moment as it is, knowing it will never come again, knowing nothing lasts, and therefore knowing the profound preciousness of now. This is the unexpected gift of impermanence. When nothing is permanent, everything becomes sacred. The warrior stands in this flowing river of change, not attempting to stop its currents, but learning to move with grace amidst its endless transformations. 4. Technique #3. The discipline of right effort. True mental strength is never accidental. It does not come from passive hope or temporary motivation. It is forged through what the Buddha called samma vayama, right effort, the disciplined cultivation of mind. This is where many seekers of wisdom stumble. They mistake spiritual practice for something soft, something that happens effortlessly through grace alone. But the warrior knows better. The path to mental mastery demands rigor, consistency, and a systematic approach to training one's inner world. Imagine two blacksmiths. One strikes the iron when he feels inspired, occasionally and without precision. The other works daily with exacting discipline, heating and hammering, shaping the metal with unwavering focus. Whose blade will be sharper? Whose steel will hold in battle? The answer is obvious. The mind is no different. Without right effort, even the most profound insights fade into mere philosophy. The Buddha outlined 4 specific efforts required to master the mind, each corresponding to a critical mental discipline. First, the effort to prevent unwholesome states from arising. The warrior does not wait for destructive thoughts to take root before addressing them. Just as a farmer plucks weeds when they first sprout, rather than waiting for them to choke the crops, the trained mind recognizes and redirects negative patterns at their earliest appearance. This requires vigilance. For example, when you notice yourself slipping into resentment, you consciously shift focus before it hardens into full-blown anger. When the first whispers of self-doubt creep in, you refuse to feed them with attention. This level of awareness isn't passive, it's an active guarding of your mental space. Second, the effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen. No one is perfect. Negative thoughts will surface. The warrior's skill lies in letting them go before they gain momentum. This is where many fail, believing they must figure out or solve every negative emotion. But some thoughts are like thieves. You don't negotiate with them, you simply refuse them entry. If you wake up gripped by anxiety, you don't lie in bed dissecting it. You rise, move, and redirect your energy. If bitterness arises after an argument, you don't replay it endlessly in your mind. You cut the loop deliberately. The tool here is substitution, replacing corrosive mental patterns with constructive ones. Third, the effort to cultivate wholesome states that have not yet arisen. Mental strength isn't just about resisting negativity, it's about actively building positivity. The warrior plants seeds of patience, courage, and compassion daily. If you know you struggle with impatience, you don't wait for a stressful moment to magically become patient. You train it beforehand through meditation, reflection, or small daily exercises in restraint. If you want to develop focus, you don't wait until you're drowning in distraction. You practice concentration now, strengthening the mind like a muscle so it's ready when needed. This is the difference between reactive and proactive mental training. Fourth, the effort to maintain and strengthen wholesome states that have already arisen. It's not enough to experience moments of clarity or peace. The warrior works to sustain them. Imagine lighting a lamp in a windy cave. You wouldn't simply light it and walk away. You'd shield the flame, ensure it has oil, and protect it from gusts. The same applies to positive mental states. When you find yourself in a rare moment of deep calm or contentment, you don't take it for granted. You nourish it through gratitude, through reinforcing practices, through avoiding behaviors or environments that might extinguish it. The brilliance of this fourfold effort is its balance. It's not about repression or forced positivity. It acknowledges that the mind is a dynamic field. Some plants need uprooting, others need planting, and still others need careful tending. The warrior doesn't just react to whatever thoughts happen to arise. They curate their inner landscape with intention. But how exactly does one practice this in daily life? Consider the following concrete applications. Each morning, set a clear intention for your mental state. Not a vague wish like, "I want to be happy," but a specific commitment. Today, I will notice when impatience arises and pause before reacting. Each evening, conduct a brief review. Where did you succeed in your efforts? Where did you falter? This isn't self-judgment, it's strategic assessment, like a warrior inspecting their blade after battle. In moments of transition between tasks, during breaks, when entering new environments, take 3 breaths to reset your awareness. This creates space to choose your mental state rather than being hijacked by circumstance. When negative patterns emerge, engage in deliberate replacement. If you're prone to self-criticism, consciously list 3 things you did well today. If you're gripped by worry, write down 1 concrete action you can take rather than ruminating. The discipline of right effort is ultimately about taking full responsibility for your mind. Most people treat their mental states as if they're whether uncontrollable external conditions they must endure. The warrior knows the mind is more like a garden. It grows what you cultivate and protect. Poorly tended, it becomes overrun with weeds. Carefully nurtured, it produces abundance. There is a reason monks adhere to strict daily routines, not because rigidity is virtuous in itself, but because structure creates the conditions for mental mastery. You might not live in a monastery, but you can implement your own form of disciplined practice. The time you wake up, the media you consume, the conversations you engage in, the environments you frequent, all of these are either supporting or undermining your right effort. This is why superficial positive thinking fails. Telling yourself, "I am strong," while indulging in mental habits that breed weakness is like shouting, "I am dry," while standing in the rain. Real strength comes from systematic training, from the daily, consistent efforts that reshape your neural pathways over time. Modern psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies on neuroplasticity prove that repeated mental actions physically alter the brain. Focused attention thickens the prefrontal cortex. Gratitude practice boosts serotonin. Conversely, chronic negativity strengthens amygdala reactivity. Your mental patterns are never just thoughts, they're physical structures being built or dismantled in your brain every moment. Right effort, then, isn't mystical, it's biological. The warrior understands this deeply. They know that waiting to feel like training is a losing strategy. Just as a soldier doesn't skip drills because they don't feel motivated, the mental warrior practices right effort regardless of fleeting emotions. This discipline becomes its own reward, not just in achieving goals, but in the quiet confidence that comes from self-mastery. Ultimately, the discipline of right effort leads to what the Buddha called aradhavirya, unshakable energy. It's not the frenzied effort of desperation, but the steady, enduring power of a mind trained over time. The warrior who masters this doesn't fear emotional storms. They've built an inner structure that can weather any tempest. They don't chase fleeting inspiration, they cultivate lasting resilience. This is the final piece in the triad of mental mastery. First, observing thoughts without attachment. Second, understanding their impermanent nature. And third, actively shaping them with right effort. Together, these form an unbreakable approach to the mind, one that doesn't just cope with life's challenges, but transforms them into fuel for growth. The path is clear, the tools are in your hands. The only question that remains is, will you wield them? 5. The warrior's greatest test: pain and adversity. Every warrior eventually faces their ultimate trial, not on the training grounds, not in controlled meditation, but in the raw, unfiltered crucible of real suffering. This is where philosophy meets flesh. This is where all theoretical understanding either solidifies into unshakable wisdom or crumbles into dust. The Buddha himself, before his enlightenment, had to confront this truth. No amount of intellectual knowledge can prepare you for the moment when life breaks you open. But here lies the paradox. It is precisely through this breaking that true mental strength is forged. Most spiritual seekers want growth without pain, wisdom without loss, strength without struggle. But adversity is not an obstacle on the path, it is the path. The warrior knows this better than anyone. Consider the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold lacquer, making the repaired fractures more beautiful than the original state. The metaphor is perfect. Our greatest strengths often emerge from our healed wounds. But this healing isn't passive. It demands a specific way of relating to pain that few ever learn. When hardship strikes, be it betrayal, illness, failure, or grief, The untrained mind instinctively does three things that multiply suffering. It resists. This shouldn't be happening. It catastrophizes. This will ruin everything. And it personalizes. Why does this always happen to me? The warrior's approach is radically different. They meet pain with what the Buddhist tradition calls wise attention, a framework for transforming adversity into awakening. The first pillar of this framework is radical acceptance. This isn't passive resignation, but rather the conscious decision to stop fighting reality. When a warrior is stabbed in battle, they don't waste energy shouting at the sword. They assess the wound and respond skillfully. Similarly, mental warriors practice looking directly at their pain without denial or drama. A simple but profound question shifts everything. What is actually happening right now, stripped of all my stories about it? This cuts through layers of mental elaboration to face the bare reality. Physical pain might simply be sensations in the body. Emotional pain might be specific feelings, tightness in the chest, heat in the face, rather than the global, "I'm devastated" narrative. Breaking pain down into its components often reveals that the raw experience is more manageable than the mental tornado we've built around it. The second pillar is purposeful meaning-making. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, observed that those who survived the camps weren't necessarily the physically strongest, but those who found some meaning in their suffering. Buddhist psychology takes this further. It teaches that pain is inevitable, but whether it becomes suffering depends on how we relate to it. The warrior asks, "What can this teach me? How can this deepen my compassion? What might this reveal about attachments I need to release?" Adversity becomes meaningful when we use it to cultivate qualities. We value patience with chronic pain, courage in failure, presence in grief. The Japanese samurai Miyamoto Musashi wrote, "The warrior's way is the twofold path of pen and sword." Here, the sword cuts through illusion, while the pen writes new meaning into our wounds. The third pillar is what Zen masters call making the obstacle the path. In traditional martial arts, we don't defeat an opponent by opposing their force directly, we redirect it. The same applies to mental challenges. Social rejection can become fuel for self-knowledge. Physical limitations can deepen appreciation for small pleasures. Even aging and mortality, when faced squarely, can give life piercing sweetness. The warrior looks at each difficulty and asks not, "How do I escape this?" but "How do I alchemize this?" There's a profound teaching in the Buddhist parable of the mustard seed. A grieving mother who learns that suffering is universal finally releases her dead child when she recognizes her pain as entry into shared human experience. The warrior transforms personal pain into universal compassion. Modern neuroscience validates this ancient approach. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that people who engage in deliberate meaning-making after adversity actually experience positive brain changes, increased activity in regions associated with emotional regulation, and altered connectivity in fear circuits. The act of reframing struggle literally rewires the brain toward resilience. Furthermore, research on mindfulness-based pain management reveals that accepting pain sensations without emotional elaboration reduces suffering far more effectively than resistance. The warrior's way isn't just poetic, it's biologically sound. But this isn't theoretical. Consider applying this framework to real challenges. Facing financial ruin, the warrior practice would involve 1. Accepting the current numbers without panic, this is the situation. 2. Identifying values and skills this crisis highlights, perhaps simplicity or creativity. And 3. Using the fear as motivation to develop new financial literacy, dealing with heartbreak. 1. Allowing the grief without stories of betrayal or self-blame. 2. Discovering what the relationship taught about your needs and boundaries. And 3. Letting the loneliness deepen connections with others who suffer similarly. The pattern holds accept, extract meaning, redirect energy. The highest expression of this warrior mindset appears in the Buddhist practice of Tonglen, breathing in others' pain and breathing out relief. Here, personal suffering becomes training for shouldering universal suffering. The warrior who has walked through their own darkness develops the eyes to see and the strength to bear others' darkness. This is why the greatest healers are often those who have been deeply wounded, yet chose to transform rather than transmit their pain. Ultimately, the warrior's relationship with adversity comes down to one fundamental shift. From asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to asking, "What is this asking of me?" The first question leads to victimhood, the second to empowerment. Every major spiritual tradition has some version of this wisdom. The Christian mystics called it the sacrament of the present moment. The Stoics called it the art of acquiescence, and the samurai called it accepting life as one long crisis. This doesn't mean the warrior enjoys pain or seeks it out. That would be spiritual masochism, not wisdom. But when pain inevitably comes, the warrior meets it as both student and alchemist, extracting its lessons, dissolving its poisons, and emerging not just intact, but refined. There's a reason Buddhist monasteries often display images of fearsome protector deities alongside serene Buddhas. True peace isn't naive, it's that which has stared directly into life's fierceness and remains unshaken. The warrior cultivates precisely this quality, not the absence of storms, but the ability to stand steady within them. Your greatest trials are therefore your most sacred curriculum. Each carries encrypted lessons in courage, patience, and depth that no comfortable life could teach. The warrior knows this. They don't pray for an easy life. They pray for the strength to meet whatever life brings. And in that meeting, they find an unassailable freedom, not from pain, but from fear of pain. This is the warrior's ultimate victory. 6. The daily training, building unbreakable resilience. The difference between warriors and ordinary people is not found in moments of crisis, but in the invisible hours of preparation that precede them. Just as a samurai's lethal sword strike is the result of 10,000 practice cuts performed in solitude, mental strength emerges, not from grand declarations during dramatic moments, but from the quiet, daily rituals that reshape your relationship with your own mind. This is where most seekers fail. They want enlightenment without the mundane repetitions that make it real. They crave unshakable peace, but won't commit to the tedious work of taming their mental chaos day after ordinary day. Buddhist monks understand something fundamental about human psychology that modern life has forgotten. Repetition creates reality. What you do daily, not occasionally, not when inspired, not when convenient, determines the architecture of your mind more than any lofty philosophy or momentary insight. The ancient texts describe this as bhavana, which translates not as meditation in the limited Western sense, but as mental cultivation, the systematic, disciplined development of consciousness through consistent practice. Your morning routine is more than just a series of actions. It's the foundation of your mental battlefield. The warrior doesn't check emails or scroll through social media upon waking, because those first fragile moments of consciousness are when your mind is most impressionable. Instead, they establish what Tibetan Buddhists call semhyen, awareness of awareness itself. This might involve 5 minutes of simply feeling the breath, observing the play of morning light through the window, or mentally reciting an intention for the day. The content matters less than the principle. You are programming your mind before the world programs it for you. The warrior's day is punctuated with micro-practices that serve as psychological reset points. Just as traditional martial arts training includes kata, prearranged movement sequences, drilled until they become instinct, the mental warrior develops mindfulness kata, brief but potent exercises scattered throughout the day. Before entering any new environment, take 3 conscious breaths, while scanning your bodily sensations. After completing any task, pause for 10 seconds to notice your mental state before rushing into the next activity. When transitioning between work and personal life, perform a symbolic gesture, washing hands, changing clothes, with full attention to mark the psychological shift. These are not spiritual affectations, they're neurological interrupters that break the automatic momentum of distracted living. Nutrition becomes meditation when approached with right effort. The warrior doesn't merely eat, they observe how different foods affect their mental clarity, energy levels, and emotional stability. Buddhist monasteries traditionally serve simple, modest meals at fixed times, not as ascetic punishment, but because regulated eating stabilizes the mind's baseline state. Modern research confirms this. Blood sugar fluctuations directly impact willpower reserves and emotional regulation. Your fifth cup of coffee might feel like productivity, but the warrior recognizes it as adrenal hijacking that will sabotage evening meditation. That sugary afternoon snack might satisfy a craving, but the warrior knows it will create mental fog during the precious hours of evening study. Physical movement transforms into mindfulness practice when executed with full awareness. The Zen archer doesn't just shoot arrows, they become the arrow's flight. The Tai Chi practitioner doesn't just perform movements, they cultivate Jing, the martial energy of focused intent. For the modern warrior, this might mean turning your daily walk into a sensory meditation, noticing the play of muscles and joints, the rhythm of breath, the symphony of urban or natural sounds. Weight training becomes an exercise in samadhi, single-pointed concentration, when you focus completely on muscle contractions rather than distracting yourself with music or television. The body is the most immediate gateway to present-moment awareness, and the warrior exploits this portal relentlessly. Evening reflection is the whetstone that sharpens the day's lessons. The Shaolin monks perform Gong Fu not just as martial technique, but as skill cultivated through time and effort. Their nightly reviews dissect every sparring match, every failed technique, every lapse in attention. The mental warrior adopts this same ruthless honesty in examining their day. Where did I lose presence? What triggered emotional reactions? When did I default to autopilot? This isn't self-judgment, it's strategic analysis. The Japanese swordsman Miyamoto Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings that warriors should consider lightly what you think deeply about. Evening Review distills this paradox: serious examination without morbid fixation. Sleep becomes sacred preparation rather than mere biological necessity. The warrior understands that sleep quality determines tomorrow's mental resilience. Buddhist sleep practices like the Yoga Nidra techniques preserved in Himalayan monasteries view the hypnagogic state before sleep as fertile ground for subconscious reprogramming. A simple warrior's protocol might involve 1 hour before bed, dimming lights and disconnecting from digital stimulation, performing gentle Yijin Jing, muscle tendon changing, stretches to release physical tension, spending 5 minutes recalling 3 specific moments of gratitude from the day, and finally, lying in the Shavasana, corpse pose, position, while systematically relaxing each body part. This isn't mere sleep hygiene, it's treating the night as the silent partner to your daily training. The warrior's environment is deliberately engineered to support mental cultivation. Just as traditional dojos remove distractions to facilitate focus, your living space should reflect your priorities. This doesn't require monastic austerity, simply strategic arrangement. A designated meditation cushion, in clear view, serves as a visual reminder to practice. Books on wisdom, traditions, placed prominently reinforce intellectual direction. Even digital environments can be weaponized, replacing social media apps with meditation timers on your phone's home screen, or setting automated reminders with Stoic maxims or Zen koans. The modern world constantly hijacks attention. The warrior counteracts this with environmental design that pulls awareness back to center. Relationships become mirrors for self-examination. The warrior doesn't surround themselves with yes men or avoid conflict. They seek noble friends who challenge their blind spots, as the Buddha advised. Every interpersonal friction becomes grist for the mill. That co-worker who irritates you, they're exposing your impatience. That relative who pushes your buttons, they're revealing unresolved wounds. The warrior approaches relationships as live fire training grounds, where theoretical wisdom gets stress-tested against reality. This doesn't mean tolerating toxicity. It means extracting growth from every interaction, pleasant or unpleasant. The true test of daily training comes when life interrupts all routines during travel, illness, or crisis. Here the warrior demonstrates their flexibility within discipline. Maybe formal meditation gets replaced by mindful dishwashing in a busy household. Perhaps sleep rituals adapt to a noisy hotel environment. The form matters less than the underlying principle, maintaining conscious awareness even when perfect conditions vanish. Buddhist monks often train specifically in disruptive environments, meditating in bustling marketplaces or beside waterfalls, because life guarantees nothing will go as planned. Technology becomes servant rather than master in the warrior's hands. Apps that track meditation streaks or mood patterns provide valuable feedback loops. Podcasts featuring Dharma talks or philosophical discussions turn commute time into learning opportunities. Even video games can become training tools when approached with awareness. Studying your frustration at losing or craving to keep playing reveals psychological patterns. The warrior neither rejects modern tools nor becomes enslaved by them. They weaponize everything for mental cultivation. The cumulative effect of these daily practices is what the Tibetan tradition calls Lag Thong superior vision that sees through illusions. After months and years of consistent training, what once required conscious effort becomes second nature. Situations that previously triggered anxiety now reveal their empty nature. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming now appear as workable obstacles. This transformation doesn't occur through dramatic breakthroughs, but through the accrual of countless small moments of awareness, like drops filling a bucket until it overflows. The warrior's secret is this: there is no magical future moment when you'll suddenly become mentally strong. Strength is the natural byproduct of how you meet each ordinary hour. Your daily routine isn't separate from spiritual practice. It is the very crucible where enlightenment gets forged in the fire of mundane reality. The Buddha didn't attain awakening during a spectacular event. He achieved it through relentless daily practice over 6 years. Your path is no different. Mental resilience isn't built in the abstract. It's constructed through concrete actions repeated when you feel like it and when you don't, when life is easy and when it's hard, when results are immediately visible and when progress seems invisible. The warrior doesn't train for today. They train for that unforeseeable future moment when all theories will be worthless and only deeply ingrained patterns of awareness will remain. When that moment comes, and it will, your daily training will determine whether you break or stand unshaken. Not your beliefs, not your intentions, not your inspiring quotes, but the sum total of all those invisible mornings and evenings when you chose to cultivate your mind instead of numbing it. This is the warrior's way, making each ordinary day the foundation for extraordinary resilience. 7. Becoming unbreakable, the warrior's mindset. The final truth is this: true mental strength is not something you achieve, it is something you become. It does not come from memorizing philosophies or temporarily adopting practices, but from a fundamental rewiring of your very way of being. At this stage, the warrior no longer applies techniques, they embody them. The Buddhist teachings on anatta, non-self, reveal the paradoxical key. By releasing attachment to your old identity, the fragile, reactive, easily shaken self, you discover an unshakable presence that has always existed beneath the surface. This is not theoretical. This is not poetic. This is the raw reality of transformation that every true warrior mystic from Bodhidharma to the samurai Miyamoto Musashi has experienced. Imagine standing in the middle of a hurricane. The winds tear at your clothes, debris flies past your face, chaos surrounds you, yet at your center there is absolute stillness. This is the warrior's mindset, not because the storm ceases, but because you cease fighting it. The untrained mind believes peace comes from controlling external circumstances. The warrior knows peace comes from surrendering the illusion of control while maintaining absolute command over their internal world. This shift in perception changes everything. The warrior's mindset begins with the radical acceptance that life will break you repeatedly. Relationships will fail, health will decline, loved ones will die, plans will collapse. The question is not whether you will face devastation, but whether you will allow it to destroy or forge you. Japanese kendo masters teach that the sword must be folded and hammered thousands of times to become unbreakable. The steel's strength comes precisely from having been shattered and reforged so often. Your mind develops the same resilience, not in spite of being broken, but because of it. Most people live in quiet desperation, haunted by two fundamental fears: the fear of suffering and the fear of insignificance. The warrior transcends both through direct confrontation. The fear of suffering dissolves when you stop avoiding pain and instead study it when you sit with heartbreak, anxiety, and uncertainty not as enemies but as teachers. The fear of insignificance vanishes when you realize your essential nature, what Zen calls kokoro. The original mind is already complete, needing no external validation. This is not a mental trick. It is the result of relentless self-inquiry, the kind practiced in Buddhist koan training where intellectual answers fail and only direct experience remains. Consider how ordinary people approach challenges. They tense against them, creating internal resistance that magnifies suffering. The warrior does the opposite. They yield, not in weakness, but like a bamboo stalk that bends in the storm but does not break. When loss comes, they feel it fully rather than numbing themselves. When failure strikes, they examine it with ruthless curiosity rather than collapsing into shame. This yielding is not passivity, it is supreme adaptability. The Tao Te Ching captures it perfectly. The stiff and rigid belong to death. The gentle and yielding belong to life. The warrior's greatest weapon is equanimity, not the bland neutrality many mistake it for, but the profound capacity to experience life's full intensity without being overthrown by it. This equanimity gets forged through what Tibetan Buddhists call chod practice, deliberately confronting what you fear most in controlled conditions. Modern psychology confirms the wisdom. Exposure therapy works because systematically facing fears in manageable doses builds tolerance. The warrior applies this to emotional and psychological realms. Afraid of rejection? Seek minor rejections daily until the sting fades. Terrified of uncertainty? Deliberately disrupt routines to build comfort with unpredictability. The warrior doesn't wait for life to administer lessons, they create their own curriculum. At this level of practice, meditation is no longer something you do, it becomes how you live. The boundary between formal sitting and daily activity dissolves. Washing dishes, you feel the water's temperature with the same presence a monk brings to mantra recitation. During conversations, you notice subtleties of tone and expression most miss. Even in conflict, part of you remains the calm observer, not detached from life, but so fully engaged that the usual divisions between self and experience vanish. This is Samu Zen's practice of mindful labor carried to its ultimate expression. The warrior's relationship with time transforms. Most people vacillate between regretting the past and worrying about the future. The warrior knows both are illusions, the past is just memory. the future, just projection. There is only now. This is why warriors across traditions emphasize death awareness. The samurai would meditate daily on their mortality. Buddhist monks contemplate decaying corpses. This isn't morbidity, it's the ultimate reality check. When you fully accept you could die at any moment, two things happen. Trivialities lose their power to disturb you, and each moment acquires piercing significance. Your word becomes unbreakable law not just to others, but to yourself. The warrior doesn't make promises lightly, because they understand that every broken commitment, however small, erodes self-trust. Modern research on the commitment consistency principle in psychology validates this ancient wisdom. Each time you follow through on your word, you strengthen your integrity. Each time you break it, you create internal division. The warrior maintains flawless integrity, not out of moralism, but because they recognize it as the foundation of mental coherence. The warrior's mindset ultimately expresses itself as a strange combination of fierce engagement and complete non-attachment. You pour yourself fully into your work, your relationships, your passions, yet hold nothing back when circumstances demand release. The Japanese call this mushin, the no-mind state, where action flows without hesitation or second-guessing. A master calligrapher doesn't hesitate when the brush touches paper. A seasoned firefighter doesn't debate choices when entering a burning building. The warrior cultivates this quality in daily life, not just for emergencies, but as a way of being. This level of mastery requires surrendering the very notion of mastery. The moment you think, "I have arrived," is the moment you begin declining. The warrior remains perpetually the beginner, what Zen calls shoshin, the beginner's mind. Each day presents new lessons. Each victory contains seeds of future challenges. The path doesn't end, it deepens. The unbreakable warrior is not some mythical figure. It is the potential within you that emerges through relentless practice. Not practice aimed at perfection, but practice aimed at presence. Not practice to become invulnerable, but to become so completely alive that vulnerability ceases to threaten you. When you reach this stage, you'll discover the final secret. There was never anything to fear. The storms still come, the losses still ache, the uncertainties still loom. But at your center, something remains untouched. The awareness that was present when you were 5 years old, that remained through all your heartbreaks and triumphs, that will watch your final breath with the same calm it watched your first. This is what you are beneath the stories, beneath the temporary identities, beneath the ever-changing thoughts and emotions, the silent witness that cannot be shaken because it is not an object to be moved. The warrior's journey is simply the process of removing everything that obscures this realization until nothing stands between you and the unbreakable reality of your true nature. Now the training is yours. The path is clear. Will you walk it?